Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Clubfoot Big Mansion. So, Clubfoot Big Mansion. I found it on Creepypasta.wiki. I think it was on the main page at one point. And the name stood out. And then I looked it up. We pulled up the article, and it turned out it's actually a posting from the X thread on 4chan back in 2011. Or it was a series of postings actually that were then archived on Creepypasta.wiki. So we don't have an author per se, probably just anonymous for now. If somebody out there knows whoever posted this, or knows who it was, let us know and we'll credit them. But yeah, you can check this out on Creepypasta.wiki where it's been saved. And I suppose we'll give our initial recommendations. I'm going to recommend this one.
I'm not going to recommend this one.
I am also not going to recommend this one.
Fair. All right, well, let's dive in and find out why we gave those recommendations, or non-recommendations, as it were.
So curious if your immediate positivity will sway us at all. It might. Well, me, it might, but Mikey, I doubt it.
Yeah, Mikey will die on hills.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, let's find out. Starting with the rundown. So this story was posted on the X thread of 4chan by Nair, because we never got the name for the person. And they have a very peculiar night that they experienced a while back while on the eve of their birthday. Nair went out against her parents' wishes and got piss drunk with her friends, getting kicked out of various pubs in their small English town. Her friends eventually ditch her, and she starts walking home, though not before popping in to one of the other pubs that they had visited earlier. It's here that she meets a short man with long fingers and a clubbed foot. He gets her some more drinks, and then they go to the Big Mansion property next to Nair's own home for some more fun and, activities and such. The property is empty and under some construction, and as they are hanging out there by the scummy green pool, Clubfoot, as Nair calls him, because her memory is a bit woozy from that evening, calls in another young man, and the three have some strange substances and walk about the property with chalk alongside the walls of the house, and eventually break into the house. Nair's memory gets hazier, and the next thing she knows, she's walking back to her home and waking up the next morning with dirty clothes and boots caked in a reddish muck. After a shower and a berating from her parents, she's effectively grounded for some weeks before there's a warm spell, as it is approaching spring at this point. While sunbathing outside, she gets the ability to sneak back over to that house because she starts recalling some things and her parents have driven off. And so she goes over to the property, remembering some odd things that happen there, and also finding bloodstained markings inside the house and some other sort of trigger points. And she realizes that there may have been some ill intent with her encounter a few weeks back. So she quickly returns home, but then later needs to know more about what's going on. And as she updates the X thread that she's been posting the story so far, several times over the course of her going back to the house again, she finds that it's been all the stuff that she saw earlier was cleaned up, like the markings have all been cleaned up or scrubbed. And she does eventually find a way back inside, but then gets trapped inside and tries to message for help, but someone seems to have taken her phone and starts posting as well, asking for help because ... they need more people. That's where the story ends, with a fin. So, yeah, that was Clubfoot Big Mansion. So I suppose we'll move on to everyone tolerates the Grand Inquisitions at this point. I've got a couple. Gonna start with this one here. Builders were, in brackets, and still are, in bracket, working on the patch of land that would otherwise have separated the two houses, redoing the border of the property since it had recently come up for sale. They really just need to remove that redundant that's in that sentence.
Yep.
And the next one I have, which is actually the last one I have, but it kind of covers something that happens a couple of times in the story. I suppose he'd figured this out for himself, and he said, "Did you know there's a pool next door?" So, suppose is SPOSE in the story, and it should be SUPPOSE. However, this story is copy-pasted from a 4chan X thread. So, grammar and casual internet typing is to be expected. So I'm actually kind of willing to give this story some leniency when it comes to that stuff. Because, as we've all said in the past, it's the way the character types.
We've said that too many times.
Yeah, but we've said the main one, which is the way the character types.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, like when you're typing on your phone, I'm assuming she's typing on all this stuff on her phone. So,
especially the last part where it's shorter and it looks like a text message.
Yeah. So, there's a few other instances where there's grammar like this, suppose it comes up a couple more times, and there's some other mentions and such. But it's all right, this actually kind of added to the immersion because this is being posted on one of those internet threads and such. So I'm willing to give that the benefit of the doubt. But
suppose it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Suppose with SPOSE.
Suppose, yeah.
Suppose. But that's all I've got for Grammar Inquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil. Rip it a new one.
Well, I did most of what you said and ignored most of it because, again, it's a quote-unquote form posting.
Yeah.
But the main issue that I had is that, we don't get much posting format other than the beginning and near the end. And the quotation marks are just so wrong.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to bring those up. Yeah, no, you're there's a lot of it uses quotations
around every paragraph for the most part, and then it's
yeah.
So is it a different person talking when that happens? Because that's how it's supposed to work with quotations.
Yes, because with normal I could have given it a pass, I guess, if it had been the starting of the paragraph has a quotation and then they don't have a quotation at the end and then it goes to another paragraph and has a quotation because that's actually how you continue a thought and such.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's used quote end quote every paragraph almost. So
maybe it's meant to make it feel like she is there talking and telling you this.
That's
she
true.
is technically doing that, but it's their post, so I don't know. It's if you're posting something on Xthread, you are specifically putting the quotes in where normally you would just type it because they're obviously your own quote because you're typing it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm also noticing that there's actually there's quote end quotes or quotations for dialogue within the quotations.
Yeah, weren't they single quotations at that point?
There's a few of them that are single quotes, but there are ones that are double quoted. And actually in the same section, there's one where it's a single quote, "You thirsty sweetheart," end quote, And that's more of like, and when I did, he said something like, and then goes into that thing. And then like the next paragraph, which is part of that same quotation, like overall quotation, there's dialogue where it says, and I told him something like, and then in quotes, your hand looks like a lizard foot. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have done without the quotations.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so continuing on, I have a conjunction junction.
All right.
And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
But alcoholics find a way, don't they, XD? I headed down to the town square to meet up with some friends, and we hit the pub. It's a smallish rural town in England. The type where everyone are friends and possibly relations. So, in classic horror movie style, we stumbled across the building site, across the big mansion lawn, over to their pool, which was surrounded on 3 sides by a high concrete wall. It was covered in a thick green scum. No skinny dipping for me. It might have been a knife, as I held it in my fist, but I don't think it had a blade. It was, I think, the window in the living room of the big mansion, and it broke, making a hole about the size of my head. But I wasn't in any pain, I wasn't bruised, and there was no residue, if you know what I mean. So I quickly relaxed again and put it out of my mind. So I stayed inside and studied for my exams. And sure enough, I had a memory. Standing in the hall with a smile on my face, calling a name I couldn't remember, holding a hard object in my hand. It wasn't a mark, it was a print. In the rusty substance I'm starting to fear is blood. But it's all completely true. Finn.
Wow, that was sort of very concise and also kind of in theme, like disjointed rundown.
The story itself is already pretty disjointed, but when Mikey grabs all the sentences throughout the story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like gets, ends, or buts, to highlight that there's better words to use, it becomes even more disjointed.
Indeed. All right, so Gamer, do we have a grammar in yellow?
I think a little bit. Let me see. So, as we said before, pretty much all these are in the entire paragraphs in quotes. But like, and there's single quotes within those when the character's actually saying something or even thinking something. But this one here, there's just nothing, and I feel like there should be one where it says, "I hear someone breathing heavily, or maybe just whispering quietly at someone. The pipes in the house tapping, and the creak of mine and Clubfoot's limping steps. Where had the other man gone?" I think I asked Clubfoot that aloud, but I'm not sure. So that part's straight up an actual piece of dialogue in here that is not in any sort of quotation aside from the overall paragraph quotation.
Mm-hmm.
And she said herself that she doesn't remember if she thought it or said it, but regardless, I think it should be in single quotes.
Yeah, agreed. Or at least be quoted, like, because it is, for better or worse, it is dialogue, and like that's how the story's been formatting those kind of things. So
yeah,
even when like she thinks she says something like this, and then it's in quotes. So yeah,
dialogue is just in the paragraph. It doesn't like jump down to single lines like it does in some stories.
Yeah.
But either way, that's the only grammar thing I had left.
All right. Well, I suppose we'll move on to actual thoughts. So I'm going to start with this part here. Okay, the story I'm going to tell you happened to me this year in March, the night before my birthday. Okay, so legit hardcore connective tissues time, guys. Numero uno. Yes, I do speak French.
Nice.
I also don't know if that's French or Spanish. Future me, come on, man. It's Italian. Moving on. Connective tissues number 1. This story is being read in and being posted the last week of March of this year. So, thought that was some nice little connective tissues right off the hop. I was like, oh. And then
yeah.
Yeah. And then connective tissues number 2, personally for me, this story, as we learn, is set in England, a small coastal town near Seaton, in fact, and more on that later in the notes I have. And I have been recently, the week of reading the story and like getting ready for this and all this stuff, been getting really into some UK paranormal investigation computer games by Darkling Room Studios, and like which a lot of them are set in a very similar location, like small coastal like English towns. Like, goddamn, I had no prior knowledge to this story before I sat down and read it. And it just like the 1-2 punch of like the story of the story. Most of the story's events took place in March. The story's getting posted in March. Or this episode is getting posted in March. And then like the story set in a small English town on the coast. I've been watching like Let's Plays and playing some games set in small English coastal towns that deal with like something supernatural or something like kind of like peculiar and like horror based. So yeah, it was just like serendipity that we read this this week.
Pretty much, it was meant to be.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have here. Seeing as I was almost blackout grade shit-faced at that point, I wasn't frightened to be walking back into town that late at night. So, like, reading this part, like, we're like, after she like gets ditched by her friends, and she's just like, I fucking don't care. I'll just walk home. It's like whatever. It kind of reminded me of a trip that me and Gamer went on once, and like during that trip, we both were walking back to like where we were staying from a Mandarin restaurant. And we kind of had the same kind of mentality.
Yeah.
It was like fucking we could get mugged and I don't fucking care.
But instead of being in some sort of drug and alcohol like overdose situation, it was just an overdose of food.
Yeah, we were just so coma. Like, yeah, exactly. We were like halfway through a food coma on our march home. And I remember I just like have vivid memories of us just like somebody could mug us right now. I don't fucking care. I'll just puke up.
Yeah,
so good. But yeah, like that's just something that like reminded me of like that. But I'll move on to the next thing I have. That's a little bit more like to the story.
Yeah, really.
Not just a memory that's triggered. I came with him to and from the bar and never let my glass out of my sight. So I absolutely know he never put anything in my drink. Remember that. Okay, but like so far you've stated that for the whole night up until this point, you've been sloshed out of your mind to the point that your perspective and opinion are quite impaired. So I may take things with a grain of salt when you're saying like this stuff is all true and all that kind of stuff, and like this actually happened, or like the events that you're detailing happened, just because like the character was in that kind of inebriated state already.
And even so, like in the bar, yes, she didn't lose track of her glass or anything like that. But then like they get to the mansion and Clubfoot starts taking a bunch of pills, and she's like, "Give me a couple of those." It could have been anything.
Exactly. Yeah, like creating some like funny cigarettes with like by like cutting it open and like sprinkling some like stuff in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
which is not sus at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd also like to point out at the very beginning of the story, there's this quote here. I can only identify which things I saw and heard and which things I did that were irrational when I'm medicated.
Yeah, and specifically, she says also like around that same time that she didn't take her pills that day
Oh, she did,
because
I think.
No, she didn't.
no, yeah, she didn't take them that morning because they make her really sleepy when she drinks.
Mhm.
So
But she
without my
specifically took them because she wanted to like be able to sleep.
I understand your confusion, but like I'm literally looking at it right now. Like if I drink after taking my pills, I get drunk and pass out much easier. Without my medicine, I tend to get visual and sound hallucinations. Oh yeah, and then sorry, before that actually, I was at home like usual in my room drinking. I knew that I'd be drinking, so that morning I had only pretended to take my pills.
Yep. Okay, you're right.
No worries. It was a little confused because like later on, I remember like jumping back to like check. So, yeah. Yeah. So her like the character like she's like, oh, like this stuff happened. It's true. Like and posting this on X thread and stuff like that. But then already gives us some of her diagnosis of like what like of some things that are up with her that make her perception a little sus. So.
Right off the bat, too.
Yeah, basically, like makes her an unreliable narrator right off the hop.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I read that backwards. So she started out more reliable because she was on her medication and also drinking.
Yeah. But regardless of that, I'll move on to the next thing I have. I noticed he had long fingers. Actually, that's the only solid, definite fact I remember about him. His fingers were disproportionately long, considering his height. But even if he was 6 foot tall, his fingers would have looked just a tiny bit wrong. So, like, she's describing this person, and like, right off the hop, I don't know why it triggered so like quickly, but it was like, Faye alert, don't make any deals with this man.
Yeah, really.
He is clear. This is so to quote an internet meme that's popped up recently. This is an obvious Faye trap. Yeah, it's just like, and I got some more stuff about that. I think in a quote or two. But yeah, it's just like as soon as it's like, oh man, this is definitely like we're in England. This person could definitely be a Fae creature, just like trying to find an easy score.
Creatures only over there? I feel like they're everywhere.
No, they are everywhere, but like they're most predominant. Like, well, because like the fairy folklore and like the Fae are very like that's like the homeland is like England and Ireland. And they go by different names elsewhere, like Vossen in Scandinavia and like cryptids in North America.
Exactly, yeah.
And yokai and there's another I think Mononoke in Japan. Like there's names for like these creatures like all over the place. But yeah. Oh yeah, so this next one I have is regards to the title. This might be a little bit critically silly. I guess because I mentioned feet, he told me that he had a clubfoot. I remember him limping, so I guess it was true, but I don't remember seeing the actual foot. So this is like we already got like long fingers, clubfoot, and then later on we get the big mansion bit. So like the story just like so I feel like the title does now make a little bit more sense, like clubfoot, big mansion. Though the question remains, why not long fingers, clubfoot, big mansion?
Is that necessary?
I just feel like just keep adding descriptions.
Yeah.
To the title, just make
Off
the
my
title
meds, drunk off my ass.
Yeah.
Long fingers, clubfoot, big mansion.
Bloody markings.
Yeah.
Yeah, just basically the title is just like is like the most disjointed and shortened version of like a rundown for the story.
It's a Reddit no sleep title at that point.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically. Which is interesting because like Clubfoot Big Mansion, like I don't think that title was necessarily like, they don't give you titles for creepypastas on like 4chan or X thread, because they're usually just postings, like kind of like almost an ARG style, or like just just stories that people share online. They don't actually usually have titles. So like this title was obviously created by whoever posted this on the Creepypasta wiki. So this is more of an impromptu proposed title with Clubfoot Big Mansion for the story. But I digress. I'll move on to the next thing I have, which is actually tied into what I was saying earlier about, like, you know, the Fae and stuff like that. On I guess the third time round, he gently pulled me away from the wall so I wasn't damaging the line. And he put the other man's hand in my hands so I could lead him around. I could barely see the man at all, but I remember feeling that he was gorgeous, and my age, if not younger, and I was happy to lead him. I think I thought we were dancing. Yeah, so this whole thing, like making the circled lines around the house in chalk, the strange substance that like he actually like doesn't tells her like he isn't for her and stuff like that, and the bizarre dancing like motion and like being under some kind of a trance almost, really bring into mind like Vossen / Fae activity, like getting caught in this, like, the whole like going around the house like thrice, by making a circle of chalk around the house, is very much reminding me of like somebody getting caught in a fairy ring, which is something that like if you pop into like one of those like mushroom rings that are created, or like a strangely circular like formation of rock or litter in the woods or something like that. Folklore will dictate that you'd get trapped. It's like a fairy trap that you'd get like stuck and get like ensorcelled by the Fae.
Or if you put the missing rock back in, then you get a Korok seed.
Well, yeah, and like that's also, I mean, you joke about that, like, and bring some Zelda to this, but like the Koroks are straight up like Fae, or like Mononoke from Japanese folklore. Like it's the same kind of stuff. Like they do, fairies and Vossen and Mononokes do the same thing across the world. Like they're just different names for the same kind of creatures and beings. So, and then I have an update post reading the story where I like kind of formulated more of stuff in my head about this like Fae and Vossen stuff. I kind of want to draw inspiration from this for a modern Vossen game, though even horror games like Call of Cthulhu or Fear itself would work for like a system to run this in. Like people online on an online forum like Xthread, near the area, like get the coordinates that are mentioned later in the story. And go and investigate and perhaps even try to rescue the person that's like calling for help and stuff like that, or messaging for help, because they read the story on their online community, and then having to deal with some kind of like archfey or like this creature, the Clubfoot Man, who's actually like some kind of like creature of magic and such, and then probably getting caught in his own in its web as well. And then also the way this is presented, this could easily go either way, from being either like something supernatural or fake thing, or just straight up be like a true crime Baraska situation.
That's how it kind of felt.
Like, yeah, this is also like, as much as I want to push for like the Vossen and the Fae stuff, like I was, as like finishing reading the story, it's like, no, this is also some low key like drug human trafficking scenario in like rural England.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, that's
the vibe
very
they gave, anyways.
Yeah, it could easily go either way. And I was actually kind of for that, because I like that it's that, well, no, like reading a story, not like for reals.
I was hoping you were gonna say that. Like, this gives real like human trafficking vibes, and I'm like really for it.
And now that's recorded and posted online.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna be. I'm gonna hear in my court hearing.
Yeah, it's fine.
God.
For the creepiness aspect, we'll clarify.
Yes, for the literature and like the reading aspect, and like for a story, a fictional story situation, like I like that it could be something like true crime horror or it could be supernatural horror.
Yeah.
Like it's that
'Cause sometimes
idiosyncratic side of horror.
Yeah, because sometimes the scariest horror is horror that can actually happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
There's
again,
no supernatural safety blanket.
fuck, like Baraska, 1999, like the ones that skeeve us out because they're horrors that can actually happen, and like even if we know that it's a fictional story, but it draws on like real life inspiration of motifs and situations that are actually happening right now as we speak, and dangerously close to home sometimes. Like, yeah, I think those are like sometimes the creepiest as well, like as just as creepy as like some kind of like supernatural entity that is trying to steal you away to its realm or whatever.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're basically the same thing. It's just one is more grounded in reality. But I digress. I'll move on to the next thing. I rummaged in my bag for my glasses and put them on. It wasn't a mark, it was a print. In the rusty substance I'm starting to fear is blood. The dripping print of a hand with very long and very narrow fingers. So I sort of suspected earlier on that the orangey, like brown red substance that was like caked on her boots and stuff like that was probably blood of some kind, or there was some kind of like something sus about it. And like the story does try to like conceal it in ways that make kind of sense. Like I know like there are certain places that have like kind of a rusty soil or like a rusty clay soil, so you might be able to get away with some of that. But also the way it was just describing it and like how it was like rinsing down, like making the water look red when it was in the shower, like when she was like cleaning off the boots and stuff. It really seems like it was like intentionally meant to indicate something more sinister. And then we have.
Wait.
Oh, yep.
I'd like to point out the quote that you just did.
Mm-hmm.
I rummaged in my bag for my glasses and put them on. I'm pretty sure that's the first time we find out that she has glasses.
Again,
and it's
leading to
60% through the story that we get this information.
Yeah. I mean, she might have still had her glasses. She might have had her glasses on while she was bar hopping and stuff. Like unfortunately the story, she doesn't tell us that until now, but like,
yeah.
It doesn't help her case of like this being legitimized.
Does it mean she's like Velma blind?
You know what's funny? As soon as Mikey brought redid the line, like I rummaged back for my glasses and put them on, I was like, immediately came out to in my head like Velma is like, my glasses. I can't see anything without my glasses.
She could be farsighted or nearsighted. I forget which one is the one where you can actually see up close still.
Nearsighted is you can't see anything far away, and farsighted is you can't read like up close.
Yeah, so whatever sighted version is the way that you can actually see.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll try to remember that, and I will immediately forget.
Yep. But yeah, again, like to Mikey's credit, it does not help the legitimacy of this character and like their what they experience, because like they are very unreliable at this point.
It kind of seems like they're going out of their way to make sure that the narrator is not trustworthy.
Yeah, you know what I just realized? So like actually this, so you know how like it's like they're from a small town, a rural town in D England. I think I know what that D stands for.
What?
They're in Derpland, England.
My God, they are.
But no, that's actually a nice little segue I have for my next quote and comments. So the quote here is, "Help me 50.713004, comma dash 3.00 or 3.054801. Help me." Yeah, basically their coordinates, and I was like, "Ooh, coordinates." Just gonna Google Maps this. Yeah, Google Maps this. And it does actually take you to a location that almost 100% fits the bill of the story's like description of the location and such. Like, if it's a rural English town in southern England, and it even and like the coordinates specifically are a mansion property or a mansion-like property with a pool next to a slightly smaller mansion-like building next to it as well, and right next to a small rural town across a river from a larger town.
That's awesome.
Though at first I was like up to like this point, and actually up to the point where like Mikey mentioned about the I think in the rundown you mentioned like the smallest rural town in D ... England, because though the name of the town, the actual town that the coordinates go to, does not start with a D, nor does this larger town across the river match it. They do so Nair mentions that like it's a smallish rural town in D ... England. The town in question is set in Devon County, England, or Devonshire. So there's your D. That's what the D is. Yeah. Because actually, like when it came up again, because me and Mikey had talked about it off recording, like right before this, before we started, and
Without me,
then well, you were here.
Me? Oh.
and then when he was doing the rundown, I was like, wait, and I looked up like the town. The town Seaton is the town. Well, actually, that's the name of the larger town, and then like the actual small town is Axmouth or Axmouth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fucking such a badass name. And it like
really
when you scroll in, you can kind of you can see like, yeah, no, this is basically the geography that's kind of described in the story. But yeah, so as soon as like I heard that name that sentence again of like it's a small rural town in D England, I was like, wait, what if it's set in like what's the county of this town? So I like looked that up and it was Devon County.
Nice.
But regardless of like all that kind of stuff, I love how immersive that is, and I had to put myself in the for a moment. I had to put myself in the shoes of like the people who are getting to see this for the first time in Xthread, like back in 2011, and like how excited and how like concerned you might be for somebody who's posting this kind of stuff. And then they even drop their coordinates, and so you can actually go to a place that that fits the bill of the thing you just read. Like that is, I'm going to take it that it's an ARG like kind of style, or like it's one of those like more immersive stories that they post online, and not like a real thing, and then we're not actually just reading a story that's actually happened to somebody, because that would be terrible. But in the context of it being fiction, like this would be a really cool like ARG kind of moment of like just getting those coordinates and then finding that everything you read is kind of accurate, like all the geography and the locations of that. So, from a historical like kind of creepypasta aspect, like I really enjoyed that. And then we have the last couple of lines from the story. So this is the last update that they provide, 0758 GMT. Help her. Come and help her. We need one more. Just classic. Very send more paramedics. Like that kind of like situation where like it's obvious the character, it's no longer the character that we've been with the entire time. It's somebody who has that person's like phone.
Yes.
And like basically just making themselves known, but also like telling somebody like, yes, come, we need one more. So yeah, I liked that. I kind of liked how it ended.
That being said,
Hmm?
when the creature said that, like no one's actually going to show up if they actually believe him.
I mean, you never know. People are stupid.
I mean, you're right.
There are people on not to say it, like people on Xthread specifically are stupid, but like people online are gullible sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, people in general are fairly gullible. So, but yeah, that's all I've got really for my actual thoughts for Clubfoot Big Mansion before we get into final thoughts. So, Mikey, D stands for evil.
Okay. So, let's start with the name of the story. So, when I read Clubfoot Big Mansion, I was expecting a Bigfoot club that had found a mansion where Bigfoot lives in the forest.
Damn it! I want that story now.
It should have been.
Like, you kind of joke, but like also that kind of sounds like I also kind of got the vibe of like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing, or like a kids show. And now I just picturing it as like being like a club of Bigfoot or Big Feet that they reside in a mansion in like the woods. I love that.
Yeah. So with that in my head from the get-go, I was disappointed.
I can see why.
Yeah. Understandable.
And then when it got to D, England, before we get the coordinates, I automatically assumed Dorchester.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the easiest D-named town I know in England.
Yeah. No, that's
At the
that's
number
fair.
of ellipses, I'm like, that's pretty short.
Well, but
yeah.
the ellipses don't necessarily mean the length of the actual name.
Yeah.
Because it can be much longer than just plus an extra 4. So, but as we found out, it could be Dunce, England. So that's their version of Derpland.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, no, I looked up. I wanted to see how far Dorchester was to Seaton. It's actually not too far off, honestly. Like it's actually like it's so there's Dartmoor National Park, and then there's Dorset National Landscapes like right next to it, and then and like Seaton and Axmouth is right in between those two, and Dorchester is right smack dab next to Dorset National Landscape. But as soon as I looked up Dorchester, one of the satellite communities of Dorchester is Poundbury.
Wonder what they do there.
Well, I also know that in England there's a dollar store called Pound Town.
Nice.
That's not a joke, or I'm not making that up.
That's excellent.
So, because their currency is pound. So
Yes.
But yeah, just like for a second there, I thought the Poundbury was actually just like it was naming off a store that was on Google Maps.
Yeah.
Pound Town.
Absolutely everyone that goes to Pound Town says, "Hang on a minute, I'm gonna go down to Pound Town real quick."
Absolutely. And if you don't, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah. Where are we going? Oh, I'm taking you to Pound Town. Hell yeah.
Oh, I love when you take me to Pound Town. Oh god, we've just lost all our UK listeners.
I mean, that's fine. But they all agree with us. I'm sure they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, they're just like, we haven't heard that before.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is that person knew, like that franchise knew what they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well aware. It's like the there's like I don't know what type of company they are, but there's a brand in the UK called FC UK.
Huh?
Because it looks like fuck.
Yeah.
I forget what the actual abbreviation means. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Mikey, you're back to you.
Yeah. So continuing on with the when we get the coordinates.
Yep.
I was disappointed that the closest town did not start with a D.
But
it was,
then we sorry.
Because it was Axmouth.
Yes. Yeah, it's Axmouth, and then like next to it is Seaton. So I mean, but then you have to realize, and it took me a couple of times to realize it. It says it's the smallest rural town in D, England. So it's not the D might not necessarily be the town's name, and it was actually the county.
That's true.
Yeah,
but still, I was disappointed when.
Fair. I was. Yeah.
Because I mean, just saying Axmouth or Axmouth would have been enough.
Yeah,
Like, it's a pretty awesome name.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand why the poster like didn't put the name or like put like a full name like specifically in their original posting, because like they posted this before they went and investigated the building and got trapped, and then they were just like, oh god, help, my coordinates are here. Like, so it makes sense because like they want some ambiguity, like they don't want people like she didn't want to accidentally dox herself, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, yeah, so it makes sense for like the first part of the story why she'd try and cover up where she lived, like what but that kind of thing. So she could have also just easily have done like, it's a small rural town in England.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the way it's written as if she's just saying these things into like a recorder, and it's like a voice to text situation. Because like with ellipses and everything. Because if she had the wherewithal to like stop at hitting D, and then just went with ellipses and then continued. Is it on a typewriter?
Now just realizing, yeah, the kind of silliness of that is like, yeah, it's a small rural town in England.
Yeah.
Like, just like stopping yourself from saying the word of the county and then putting that in there. Yeah.
Mm.
It is kind of silly, but again, that's, some people do that online too, so they do that for like the theatricalness of it.
Fair.
But yeah,
and
I'll still understand your disappointment there, Mikey.
Yeah, and that's Cinemax for that.
Okay, gamer.
Let's see what I have left. I have this quote here. The wind was starting to get a little cold, and I mentally checked whether I'd had my medicine, but I had, so there was no reason for me to be feeling like I felt. So, does taking medication mean you shouldn't be able to feel the cold wind coming through? Like, she said before that it was unseasonably warm that day, but it's possible that a seasonably cold wind came through for a moment, because that's all she's talking about.
Yeah, like maybe like part of her ailment or her situation is like, she gets chills, or like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird.
Unless, like, it's referring to the previous sentence where she's walking anti-clockwise around the house, following the chalk and like trying all the doors, but they're all locked. But that has nothing to do with whether she had her medicine or not either.
Well, unless she's like starting to remember things, she starts to get chills. Like she's wondering if it's the wind or if it's her medication. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
The strip says the wind was starting to get a little cold.
Yeah. It's odd.
Like, I don't understand that sentence at all. I feel like the paragraph would be better with that removed.
I can see that. Because like I think maybe like I'm out trying to give some kind of reason as to why it's there, is like, if like were this like a movie scene or something like that, like the wind picking up and like kind of getting chilly, like would kind of denote like some kind of like dreadful realization. But
sure, but that doesn't happen.
No, absolutely, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree. I think that didn't really need to be there.
Yeah, I'm fine with the wind happening, and I'm fine with her doing a mental check to see if she took her meds. Just not like this.
Yeah,
they don't have any relation to each other. Like, I could see if she was checking if she's had her meds, if like when she looks in the window and sees that there's like no more footprints and stuff anymore, then she'd be like, wait, did I take my meds? I don't like
maybe, yeah,
I remembered there was, but
yeah,
it's not around that.
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, even right after it says, I came across the window I had broken, and it was different from how I remembered it. At that point, she could be like, I double checked if I was on my meds to see if I was thinking clearly.
Yeah.
And I was. And then it goes, okay, the hole was bigger, blah, 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 blah. Like, that would be a better place for that.
Yeah.
And then for my last note, honestly, is just kind of my it's sort of final thoughts actually, but I also have final thoughts written down. Generally speaking, for most of the story, not a lot really happens. And like I was waiting for something to happen, and like it took until like the very last couple of lines for something to actually happen.
Really?
Yeah,
She was definitely witness to probably some guy getting killed or being like taken by the Clubfoot guy. Like
maybe.
she was taken in by the Clubfoot guy, went to this went to that abandoned house or mansion kind of place. He called up another dude, and then he like sprinkled some special some basically roof. I think he like basically drugged the other guy, and like she wanted some, and he's like, no, that's not for you, kind of thing. Like because he was planning on like abducting the other guy for some strange reason, or for some unknown reason, and she was privy to that. And then like weeks later, she got a chance to go back to that place with a clear head and realized like that shit was very shady as fuck. And then so like stuff did happen, but like
Everything that happened though was equivalent to it was all a dream, kind of.
true, yeah. And to be fair, like everything up to this point, like to your credit, like again, we've been kind of bringing this up a couple of times. Everything up to the very end of the story is sus because of the character being under various types of influence.
And off of the influence of drugs, of medication.
Yeah, like like she's under like she's inebriated like heavily, and she's also like she experiences hallucinations without medication, which she was off of. So yeah, to your point, like it could like everything up to this point like has that sort of situation when like a story is like, oh, it was all in a dream sequence and nothing happened, because it's sort of sus about that. But
I'm gonna say something, and you're probably gonna be like, "Who are you?" But I feel like the story would be stronger if it started when she woke up from the events of last night, throwing you kind of in media res. And the story is actually her trying to piece together the pieces of the puzzle to solve like the mystery of what happened last night, instead of just right out the gate telling you quote unquote what actually happened. You know, it'd be kind of more interesting to see her finding clues and stuff and snooping around, and you find a clue and it's like, oh well, that makes me remember this, that, and the other, and then pieces it all together and then gets snatched at the end.
first off, who are you?
Yeah.
How dare you like a propose a media res?
Yeah, I normally hate that.
Secondly, that's so cool. It'd be like a Memento or like like Memento or like Hot Tub. No, maybe not Hot Tub Time Machine.
You know what it is? It is a
Hangover.
combination. It's a combination of two things that I've been doing every single day for the most part, which is playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, where he has to find all
his
memories, and also watching Monk, the show of the detective that has to solve all the homicides by himself.
Yeah. Now I don't know how well that would work with the way it was posted, because like
for sure
that this story would have to basically be like take this basically that would have to be a story that was inspired by these postings.
Well, yes and no, because the first posting could be I woke up and I don't really remember what happened last night, but there's these weird clues that are telling me that I need to investigate this.
Yeah, that's true. Like it could be like a much more like involved like kind of ARG thing, like up to date. Like, and she's like maybe even getting some input from people posting on the thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, that again, I do love that idea. Don't get me wrong. Like, I absolutely love this idea of like, yeah, her just getting mementoed or like hangovered. But in a creepy found footage like horror means.
I think she specifically said that she woke up without a hangover, though, so she did not get a hangover.
Yeah, well, but I'm referencing the movie. I'm referencing the themes and plot of the. Fuck off.
There he is. There's the gamer right now.
Yeah, there he is. He's back. He's
Yeah.
back, baby. But yeah, I honestly kind of agree. I think that would actually make the story a lot stronger.
Yeah, that's all I got left for notes.
Okay. Well, on to final thoughts. I'm still going to recommend this one. It could be reworked and retooled and stuff like that, obviously, but I don't know. It got me with this. It got some solid. It got me with the potential for like, is it Fae? Is it a crime? Is it like real crime kind of horror situation going on? And I imagine it got some people talking on the boards back when this was first posted. And I just think that would have been really cool to be there, like kind of be like a fly on the wall kind of thing for that kind of stuff. The initial story is pretty cool. Again, could be retooled to be more of a memento thing, which actually that would just heighten it. And the follow-up updates that end poorly for Nair are just like mwah, chef's kiss classic internet found footage style horror of like the character like going deeper, trying to figure out what's going on and getting over their head, and then suddenly the camera or the phone or whatever gets taken by the antagonistic force, and start putting messages out for the person who's like watching it or reading it. Could easily see this being used for fodder for like a modern Vossen game or some other horror scenario. Like it's classic, like setup for that kind of thing. Like the story couldn't like, this is basically the story would be like the setup for a scenario where like characters are trying to like kind of follow in the footsteps of Nair and maybe even try to help her or rescue her, or at least stop what's going on, wherever the strangeness is happening. So yeah, I don't know, like as a classic internet horror thing, like I would recommend this. But now that Gamer has brought that up, I do think there is definitely some room for improvement or to heighten it with a bit more of a creative way of storytelling. But still recommend. Mikey, these stands for evil.
All right. So yeah, the fact that at the beginning it's very early established the unreliable narrator. So, like, how do I trust anything that's said? And I was more looking like, because of the fact that it's unreliable, I lost interest.
Okay.
Like it, because if it's was a more reliable narrator, then I'd be like, oh well, this is interesting. Like, what's happening? But the whole mundanification of the story at the beginning by having a simple explanation. Oh, because she didn't take her meds.
Yeah.
It's very
But
heavy-handed
then
right out the gate.
yeah, and of course we mentioned the glasses not being mentioned until a good chunk into the story.
That's a big problem, honestly. But yeah.
Yeah. Also, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and then the only good thing that the unreliable narrator did was misdirect to the ending, but the thing is there needs to be a bit more foreshadowing that she's going to be taken, or that the person like the clubfoot man is actually evil. Because I mean, I didn't get or catch that the other guy was taken.
Really?
Like to
Honestly,
me,
I thought the other guy that he called was also someone nefarious.
See, I thought that initially when he showed up, but then the way they were acting and like how how the Clubfoot guy was like treating him and stuff like that, I kind of got the impression like, oh no, he's gonna get killed.
well,
I just thought it was
uh,
another victim because like he
Yeah.
was also drunk/high.
Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
then like Clubfoot specifically like laced something in a cigarette for him, and not Nair. So
Well, and reading the story, it's like, well, he just disappears. Like there's,
yeah, he got trafficked or dead.
yeah, but we don't know exactly what happened. For all we know, he got in a cab and left. Like,
Sure, but I mean, like I I understand it's a problem for you. For me, it gives me that kind of creepy, out of context vibe. So
yeah, and then yeah, so that's my issue with the ending there. And I mean, it would have been another layer of creepy if she had commented that she did things that felt were beyond her control, because then the ending could have been her typing in help her, but she's under the control of the other person.
How would we
Oh,
also know that?
yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
cool, but how?
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but you would add that in somehow, but again, we don't
maybe
get
if she
that.
okay, like I think I as a suggestion for like how she could have done that, she says like, help me, like she like it's her talking at like at the end, like even like come help me, we need help, blah blah. And then but then she misspells it, like so that there's like a letter or like there's some letters that are like wrong, but there's actually a message in the typos that's like uh stay away or something like that, or like or something very brief that you can easily like throw into like into a message like that you're being forced to like type in, that basically says like don't go, don't come, don't go, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like that kind of thing.
So,
I think
there's ways to do that.
yeah. Also, I think with it, maybe with a different, like a slightly different medium, it would be easier to like kind of convey that. But like, it would be the way it
Mhm.
was posted. It was like, again, it was being posted on a message board, so
Mhm.
or on an image board. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's limitations to the medium.
Yeah. And my last comment here is that, again, I'm really disappointed there was no Bigfoot.
How fucking dare this story?
So I'm going to still not recommend this.
Fair enough.
That's not the Bigfoot part.
Yeah. All right. Well, gamer, what say you?
Well, for me, like as far as a real world horror story, it's quite serviceable for like the creepiness that may or may not have happened, if any of that actually happened. Like being in the situation would be creepy and horrifying, especially like not being able to trust your own memory. But none of this is like trustworthy because of the heavy focus on lack of medication and drugs. Like maybe I'm too straight laced to like get that out of my head and like understand the motives and stuff of someone that's that intoxicated. But like I couldn't really identify with the character, and all the setups for weirdness kept kind of being shut down over and over because like all the setups for like supernatural weirdness kind of kept getting shut down because it was explained mundanely over and over and over again. The only like true creepy thing that happened was the fact that Nair was taken at the end, and the kidnapper like took over with the messaging and stuff. But even with that, it left me questioning as to like why he would do that. Mention like, oh yeah, I got her. Now you should come over here too. Whoever's reading this, because like, he would do that. But as you said, people are dumb. So someone would absolutely do that because they'd want to know if that was true or not.
Yeah.
But all that being said, the with just like a couple of changes to the story, it would make it a lot better. I personally would have preferred starting out with a reliable narrator, and then like maybe find out how unreliable she is by the end of it. But like at least at the start, you think that it's all reliable. But the fact that it's so heavy-handed right out the gate that like no, you should not believe everything I'm saying, even though she straight up says like you should believe me. Or no, actually she says you shouldn't believe me because I hallucinate when I'm off my meds, and I am off my meds in this. So here we go. Like that's how the story starts.
Yeah, I really feel like the whole like on the med stuff like was kind of unnecessary for like the story kind of double again, like you said, like we've kind of said, and like you said, like the story kind of just doubles down and triples down on like making this character as unreliable as possible when like does the character really need to have like need medication, otherwise they hallucinate, you know, like, or like they could also just gotten sloshed while pub crawling.
Because it was medication, sloshed, and also possibly Velma'd.
Yeah.
With her glasses situation. Like, there's too many layers of unreliability.
Yeah, of her, like, perception and her, like, what she's perceiving that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been enough just to be sloshed.
Quick thing I want to add that, like, both of you have brought up, I was like, I kind of make an addendum to my my idea for, like, a horror scenario of this. Run it like straight full, like on like treat it like an actual like Cthulhu scenario or like a supernatural horror scenario, but have it be completely red herringed. Yeah. Like the entire story, like everything that the characters hear right off the hop of like, oh, this person's like in some dire situation, some really fucked up weird shit, maybe we should go investigate. And then have them go to like break into like go into this house and like deal with this property thing and like give a couple little like things that like could tangentially like lead them on like a little goose chase, but then have them when if they end up finding the person's property or going like she's fine, she's at her house, she's like, what? Oh, that message? Oh, I'm sorry, I was kind of fruwalked at the time, so didn't really know what I was posting. Shit, I should probably try and delete that. And it's just like wah, nothing was wrong.
They go there, it's just like, oh yeah, I was just writing a creepypasta. Like that's in the creepypasta.
Go meta with it, just like make the entire thing completely mundane. Like I've heard tale in like the tabletop RPG communities of people who like dare to dream and like run a Cthulhu scenario that is 100% mundane and there's nothing going on. Like I've heard tale of that of a scenario like that, of somebody running a scenario like that, and like honestly, sometimes that like that would be really refreshing.
Yeah,
like, just like have like
there to be something creepy.
Yeah, like leave your players to speculate. Oh, this is clearly like this is gotta be like some kind of like cultist activity, or like they're trying to summon Yogg-Sothoth, or like oh, it's definitely some creatures from the Fae because it's in England, so like they're definitely like stealing this person and taking them away to their realms and stuff like that, and then just pull the wool, like let the players like hang themselves with their own rope, and then just like the reveal at the end, like nothing was actually supernatural, nothing was actually even like really like happening. It was all just like a mundane like drunken slip up that sparked this entire thing. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
If that was the
I mean, some players might be like, you know what, fuck you.
Well, I mean, I think you like if you ran it with a group of players that you've been playing like playing supernatural horror games and like Cthulhu games for a while, and then throw this at them. I think this would actually be kind of refreshing because it's like there's nothing supernatural about this. It's actually like turn on its head kind of thing.
For sure.
Yeah. Sorry, that kept coming to mind when like Mikey was bringing up like how mundane the story could have been, and then you saying how unreliable it could have been. So like it's like that, it just clicked.
Yes, for sure.
But back to your final thoughts. Sorry.
Right, I totally forgot where we were. These are my final thoughts.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. All that being said, I'm gonna bump my recommendation up to a partial just because there's good potential here. It's just I personally didn't like the execution of it because 3/4 of the story I couldn't believe what I was reading, which sounds like I'm giving it praise, saying this is so good I can't believe what I'm hearing or what I'm reading. But I literally can't believe anything that's being written because it's all so unreliable.
Yeah.
But you flip it upside down, do it backwards, back to front, the other way, it would make more sense in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think that idea that you proposed would like heighten the story if you took the story and like reworked it a bit like that. But all right, so I guess a recommendation, a partial recommendation, and a non-recommendation.
Run of the gambit.
Yep, always.
Not always.
I was about to say always. Most of the time.
60% of the time, we run the gambit every time.
Exactly. But that'll do it for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, or this gets posted. 2 of us are on Blue Sky. Mikey's at the East Ends for Evil. I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Select the package you'd like to support us at. We have special episodes, extra content, early access. To all our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void. And without these stories that you post online for people to enjoy or get spooked by or just read, we really wouldn't have much of a show because you'd have nothing to talk about. So, thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the East Ends for Evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well. Yeah, there's a whole like mythos in our group of friends and our nicknames, like Furwalk.
Yep. It was a misspelling of fuck, wasn't it?
No, drunk.
When he was drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still misspelled.
It is, yeah. It's just like 2 letters.
Yes.
That's mixed up. Man.